Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. I'm going to talk about something unusual this time. Well, maybe most of the things I talk about are somewhat unusual, but this is unusual in a different way. And that is because I'm going to talk about proper pronunciation, how to do conscientization in a way that is interesting and so that you don't lose your audience, to make it as fascinating and clear as you possibly can. Okay, start out with a few basic things and then probably end with a few basic things as well. Breathing. Breathing is very, very important. Most people do not know how to breathe properly, and consequently, their voices are not centered, and you end up with a very nasal voice, kind of like you're talking like this. And so, to avoid a very nasal voice, there are several techniques that you can practice. Okay. Now, I'm saying this as somebody who was a trained actor and a trained broadcaster. I used to be a radio newscaster. Believe it or not, I was. Maybe you can tell that from the way that my voice sounds. One technique is breathing diaphragmatically. So, for example, you breathe from the diaphragm. You don't breathe from the nose. How do you do that? Well, you start out by doing something which will sound weird, but which actually works quite well. And I will show it to you. Like that. And you keep on repeating it. Over and over and over again until you get your voice up to around here. And you can literally feel your voice getting higher and higher and higher. Well, not higher in the sense of louder, but higher and higher in your body, so that you are speaking literally out of your entire body. And the pressure is placed on your diaphragm, not on your nasal cavity. Otherwise, you end up sounding like a duck. And who wants to give a talk? Who wants to listen to anybody talk who sounds like a duck? Maybe some people do, but I don't, and I bet you don't either. Okay, anyway. So again, before you begin a podcast, do that. And you can see how each time I do that, my voice becomes clearer and crisper. Show you again. And once again, my voice should become clearer and crisper. Now, am I doing that consciously? No, that is an actual result of the breathing technique I just used. There is another technique you can use, which does about the same thing, and I generally do this as well before a podcast. And that is, I go through the alphabet, pronouncing each one of the letters, but making sure that each time I spread my lips apart as far as I can within reason. I will give you an example. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. If you noticed, I did that in a whisper. Do you have to do it in a whisper? No, but that's how I do it, because it doesn't matter how you sound. It doesn't matter whether you do it in a whisper or whether you do it in a regular voice. Either way, it's the same. The main thing is that what you're doing is that you are getting your mouth to speak with your lips spread further apart. Because what happens is, if you speak like this with your lips close to each other like this, your voice is going to become more nasal. and you don't want your voice to sound like that. So you speak with your lips spread apart as far as you possibly can. Now let me censor my voice again using that breathing technique and watch it again. Clear your throat. And then do it again. Now I realize that may sound annoying, but it works very well because usually when you are doing it, you don't have an audience. I have an audience, and so I know it sounds kind of weird, but it is a way of making your voice clearer and crisper. Okay, that's part one. Part two, accent. Now, when I went to acting school back in the 1970s, we were taught to speak in what was called General American Standard English. That is not necessarily required anymore. Uh, English has become more relaxed. Different accents have become accepted. But in my opinion, General American sounds better than most accents. Why do I say that? Because I used to have a New York City accent. So when someone would ask what my name was, I would say Mark Forster. Mark Forster. That should not be confused with a Bostonian accent, which is Mark Foster. Mark Forster is New York. Mark Foster is Boston. That does not sound very good, whether you're doing it with the New York version or the Boston version. So the correct way to say it from a general American standard English version is Mark Foster. Mark Foster. In other words, you enunciate each one of the letters. If you are not sure how to pronounce a word, simply go to a dictionary and pronounce the word the way it is spelled in a dictionary. Or if you like, although this is not always that good, go to the website forvo.com, which is a pronunciation website. The problem with forvo.com is that sometimes you will get people on there who have accents that are not very nice, that sound very, very undesirable. So it is better, I think, generally speaking, to go to a dictionary. And that way you will get the proper pronunciation from a general American standard English variety. And by doing it that way, your voice will sound more, let's say, appealing. And so when you combine those things together, your voice will sound quite good. Now, I am not going to brag and say that my voice sounds quite good. Well, okay, I think my voice sounds quite good. Having worked in radio for quite a long time in the past, I spent a lot of time working on fine tuning my voice. And so when I got my first job in radio, I walked in there and began speaking to people, and I got the nickname The Voice. Maybe you can tell why. Because I speak like a radio broadcaster. Well, all radio broadcasters, in my opinion, should speak like radio broadcasters, but sadly, many do not. And as a result, they sound kind of like this or like this or like this. And you don't want to sound like that. You want to sound like a good quality radio broadcaster. And it's not to show off. It's not to show off, even though I may sound like I'm showing off. That's not what I'm doing. I am trying to explain the best way to pronounce words so that you appeal to your audience. The last thing you want to happen in any kind of broadcast or podcast is to lose your listeners or viewers. And you will lose them if you speak in a monotone, like if I'm speaking like this and I'm only talking in a single tone like that. That is not very appealing. Or if I speak like this and only you speak in a single nasal tone like this, that is also not very appealing. So you want to speak so your voice basically comes out of here, right? You feel like your voice is coming out of here, kind of like in your forehead, and you are breathing diaphragmatically. In other words, you consciously breathe from your diaphragm. Initially, will that feel artificial? Yes. But over time, it will become natural. So you will just do it intuitively, and it will no longer become artificial. Okay? So that's what you do. So let me review the things that I have done. One, you practice your breathing, and therefore you center your voice here. And again, that is by going like ma, 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 ma. Now, I know that sounds annoying, but you notice now that after just having done that, my voice is more centered. And then, if you like, you can go like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And what that does is it makes you literally want to stretch your mouth apart, because what people generally do is they speak with their lips close together. When you do that, your voice does not sound that good. So you want to speak with a literal effort to spread apart your lips. So you have to practice that. Honestly, what I do is I center my voice and I spread apart my lips by saying the alphabet with a maximum amount of lip spread. I can't, that's probably not a good term for it, every single time before I begin my podcasts. And that way, my voice begins to sound like this. And then, if you want to know how to pronounce words, go to a dictionary. If you are not sure how the pronunciation works, usually there is a key either at the bottom of a page or at the beginning of the dictionary, which will show you what each of the letters or symbols looks like or sounds like. So, for example, many dictionaries use the International Phonetic Alphabet. Now, the International Phonetic Alphabet does not look like regular letters precisely, although it is based on the Roman alphabet. It uses modifications of that Roman alphabet. So you need to study it and learn how to pronounce the words precisely. If that is too difficult, find a dictionary which simply uses regular Roman letters. But then you still need to know how to pronounce them. So, for example, an A with like this symbol over it is pronounced differently than an A with two dots over it. An A with two dots over it is a. An A with this over it is ah. And when you do that over and over again, you get used to pronouncing words in a proper way. Okay, point is, when you are engaging in conscientization, you want to make sure that you don't lose your audience. You want to make sure that your voice sounds appealing to your audience, which is why I used to be called The Voice when I was on radio. I got that nickname. Nobody calls me that anymore. I wonder why. I guess because I'm not really working in radio anymore. I'm sitting at home in my dining room broadcasting into a microphone. Well, I guess that's the reason why. There's no audience here, and I have no colleagues sitting around me listening to me speak. But I suspect that if I did, I would get that nickname, The Voice, back again. Okay. Now, I can't guarantee that you will get that nickname, The Voice. Maybe, you never know, but at least you can make your voice sound clearer, crisper, and more well placed by following the simple instructions that I gave. And then when you engage in conscientization, not only are you communicating conscience and consciousness raising, which is essential for communicating communism or socialism to people, but you will attract people because your voice will sound more appealing. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.